Okay, I am back. So I had an interruption on my last stream. Someone tried to bomb the stream again, and I thought I had a way of preventing that from happening, but apparently there was a step I needed to go through, which I wasn't aware of. I have to, but I figured it out now, I think. I have to disable for each call in Zoom the the video button. I can't just do it once for the whole Zoom meeting. I think that's the issue. All right. So I was in the middle of having a chat with with Megan, and she kindly agreed to continue the chat after I restarted the stream. I wanted to take down the previous stream that was bombed, and I'm going to have to edit that later, re-upload it into the video section of my channel. Uh, but I wanted to start a new stream and private the old one so no one else is going to be exposed to that while I finish today's streaming. Uh, but I'm glad that we have some continuity here and that Megan is going to continue. I see she's back in the chat and she says she just tested and the previous stream was unavailable. Good. That's the way it should be for right now. And Digital Gnosis says, I'm back. Welcome back to Digital Gnosis. And I just want to see what um, I want to see if it's processing, if YouTube is processing my previous stream now. It's probably looking for things like violations of terms of service. Um, and if uh, if it's like last time, my guess is that it's going to be processing it for many hours. Um, because it was like still processing 7 hours after I ended the stream from, was it 3 days ago? It was processing like over 7 hours, I think, which I think is significantly longer than it usually takes. I heard somewhere that I watched a video about it and it said usually it's like a one-to-one. So if you do a 2 hour stream, it takes YouTube 2 hours to process the video um, and enable all the editing features, like if you want to clip out something. But if you it trips something in the algorithm about like maybe you're violating copyright or terms of service or something, then I think it takes much longer to process. And I see in my analytics now, it says it's still processing, and hopefully this will go on for many hours, so I have time to cut out the part I don't want, download at least that, and then I can delete the potentially uh, problematic video, so um, it doesn't raise a problem for my channel. All right, well, let me get back to Megan's call. And oh, I guess I have to paste a new link in so she can call in. Yeah, let me do that. Um, okay, got to copy. Where's my? I just got to find the message that I pin at the top of the chat. Okay, here it is. Uh, yeah, digital gnosis. You didn't see what happened. No, it was bad. You say it can't have been that bad, right? No, it was bad. Um, you can set up the visibility on video. Uh, yeah. Diego says he has experience with this. You have to private the video. Yeah, I privated the video. Someone tried to bomb the stream last time and did bomb the stream, and I had to end up cutting out part of it. So, if you want to know more details on what happened, you can watch my last stream, Digital Gnosis, and there's a section called interruption, which is there's a timestamp in the description, so you can go right to it and you can see what happens. I mean, I cut out the um, the offensive part, but then I talk about it and try to deal with it for like 25 minutes. So you can check out my last stream for that. Okay. I just pasted my default message in the chat about the call-in instructions. Now I just have to insert the particular information about this Zoom call. And okay, there's the link. Paste. Okay, and then one more paste. Okay, there we go. And let me also pin that. Okay, so now Megan should be able to call back in because I just put the call-in info in the chat. Yeah, Digital Gnosis says some streaming services let you preview callers' cameras and things before they can join the room. Yeah, OBS allows that. There's a way to do it, and I talked about that some in the last stream. And I think I would eventually like to move to OBS, but it's a more complicated software to learn. I've used it a little bit in the past, but it will take a while to master it. And also, I think I might need to upgrade my computer to be fully compatible with OBS. Um, so in the meantime, I hope I can at least just use Zoom, and I think I can just use Zoom and not have the sort of problems I've been having. But I there's a little bit of a learning curve here. Um, so okay. All right, Megan is back in the waiting room. Okay, let me view, and I got to train myself now. I'm going to uncheck start video, and then after she's on, I'm going to recheck it so that she can turn her video on. All right, I just admitted her, and she's connecting on audio, and looks like she just needs to unmute. Can, okay,
Okay.
you're back. I
Sorry.
hear you. Can you hear me? Because I don't hear you now.
Oh, I can
Oh,
hear
now I
you.
hear you. Now I hear you. It
Awesome.
was just for a second there. Okay, so let me uh, check this start video button so you can now share your video. There you go. All right, we're back in business. Okay, catch my breath again.
That seems
It's,
like an unnecessary amount of drama to get here.
well, I was thinking it's good that I'm experiencing these problems when I'm a relatively small streamer with like viewers in the single digits or the low double digits rather than having like millions of viewers. Um, so I guess that maybe that's I don't know if a silver lining or something, but yeah, I guess it's better, or maybe I should say not as bad that I'm figuring these things out at this size than much later. But anyways, all right, let's see if let me see if I can get my head back to FDA and clinical trials and all that stuff, safe and effective.
Yeah,
That's what I want
sorry.
this
So
stream to be,
maybe
safe and effective.
good luck. Um, yeah, maybe it's worth kind of going back a couple of steps
Yeah,
to
we
kind
can
of,
we some people are only going to be seeing this. They're not going to see the
yeah,
other thing at all. So we don't know what the context coming in is. So if you want to make a fresh start, that might be good for me anyways. Um,
yeah, totally
yeah,
fair.
so
So
so they
and
just to so there was a previous caller on my last stream, Darwin, who raised the he said he was glad that there was an FDA to help make sure drugs are safe, and that triggered a response from Meghann. So that's what she wanted to come on and talk about. And I guess she's already done one rehearsal or draft of what she was going to say, and now she's going to say it again, or however she wants to approach it.
yeah, hopefully it'll be a little more streamlined this time. And let me be fair to Darwin in two respects. One, I didn't hear what happened before that. I heard that sentence, and of course I was triggered because I have been FDA facing for many years now. Um, and secondly, to be fair to Darwin, that attitude is very common, even among people who have been FDA facing. So, why did that comment trigger me? The short answer is people expect that the FDA approves drugs and diagnostics that are both safe and effective. Here's what actually happens. The the things that the FDA approves are not necessarily effective, and the things that are not approved sometimes are. So it's not that the FDA always approves things that are effective, and the things the FDA approves aren't always effective. Um, so I can give you some anecdotes with which I have been
Well, let me
personally
just make sure
involved.
let me make sure I understand the what you just said. So they approve drugs that are not necessarily effective. However, is everything they approve at least safe?
Um,
Or
that,
like whatever, I don't know what the standard of safe is, but at least by whatever
right,
standard they claim to
right.
uphold. So is it like they at least have to have the safe part, but they don't necessarily succeed at approving the effectiveness part?
Um, it kind of, I mean, they tend to be better about the safety part, but it's worth kind of saying a little bit about what safety means, right?
Sure.
So, as I was saying in the previous stream, what usually happens is that for any given disease or symptom, there's usually a standard of care, right? So a very simple example is if you have like a very superficial cut on your skin, the standard of care is to put a band-aid on. So if you're trying to now this is being purely hypothetical, if you're trying to test like a spray-on band-aid, you wouldn't the FDA would probably not let you just spray it on instead of a regular band-aid. They'd have you spray it on and then put a band-aid over it. That's the standard of care plus whatever you're trying to show is safe and then later on more effective. Um, so if
Hmm.
there are no, what that means is that if there are no more side effects than with just the standard of care, that's what's considered safe. It doesn't mean that there's no side effects. It just means that whatever's already been approved, whatever those general side effects might be, um, or in the rare cases where they don't have a standard of care, if the side effects are no more than what you'd see with a placebo, with something that doesn't actually
Mhm.
do anything, right? You know, people you like you'll have usually two groups of people, one who will have the placebo and one who will have your drug and they won't know, right? And during
Mhm.
the course of the trial, some people will get the stomach flu or they'll feel itchy or whatever, right? And they'll report that because they're told to. Um, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, right? So they'll compare,
Mhm.
okay, how many people got itchy on the placebo versus on the trial therapeutic. And if they're not different, right, they'll say, okay, it's safe.
Hmm.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. I think I understand the point.
Yeah, the
I
safe
was
doesn't mean
distracted for a
no.
second by the spray-on Band-Aid because I had is that actually a thing? I had never heard of such a.
Um, no, not as far as I know, but that's not really my realm of expertise. So take that for
Okay,
what it's worth.
I can just try to bracket that from my mind.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's
I think I got
purely a hypothetical in this case.
so a drug might still count as safe even if it does have some kind of side effect, as long as the side effects are not like beyond what you would get normally from a placebo, or I guess in the normal course of events. I guess as long as the
Or
drug is not making you worse than
right.
like
Well,
your
and worse
baseline.
is contextual, right? So
Uh,
again, if there is a standard of care that causes 5% of patients to vomit, right? And
mm,
5% of patients also vomit with your drug, right?
mhm,
In addition to the standard of care, then they'll say, yeah, yeah, there are side effects, but they're not worse than what we've already done.
mhm.
That's what
So that
safe
drug
means.
could
So,
still count
so
as
let me be very
safe,
clear that safe doesn't mean that there are no side effects. It never means
right?
that.
Yeah. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
So
So
that's so as long as the drug meets that definition of quote safety, then the FDA would approve that sort of drug. Or does it also have to approve the effectiveness? That's what I was
yes, it
wondering.
has to do both. And that's why you have multiple phases of clinical trials. So I've been through all of these phases. So phase one is almost exclusively safety, right? And let's be clear, you don't get to phase one until you've done toxicology studies and you've done studies in animal models of some like you have to do some sort of animal model study to show that in something similar, in a similar biological system, it doesn't always have to be primates, but it often is, um, that you're not going to kill your patient, whether it's a primate, a pig, a mouse, a human, right? Like you have to show that there's, what kind of doses would be okay. No one's going to have death or near death kind of symptoms. Um, then so you have to have the sort of preclinical work done. That's IND phase. Then there's the official phase one, right? Where you usually do a dose escalation. Like what amount of doses in patients, usually healthy patients, um, are, aren't going to lead to significant events, right? Like if they vomit, fine. If they vomit so hard they pass out, not fine. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. So let me just kind of restate or mirror what you said to make sure I'm getting it. So you said there was the IND phase, which rules out like that the drug will cause death or near death.
Um,
Um,
no, it doesn't rule it out. It gives, you know what I mean? Like if you if any of your non-human primate patients die, you're probably not going to get to phase one. Um, but if they all make it, that doesn't necessarily guarantee that all of your human patients will make it.
yeah. So I guess maybe I should phrase it like this. The what does that stand for, by the way? You said IND.
That's a really good question, and it's been so long that I actually have forgotten. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I can look it up later. But anyways, whatever IND phase is, that rules out, I guess, death or near death to a certain level of likelihood or something. Like if it seems very unlikely given what's happened with tests on primates, for there to be death or near death in humans, then you go to the phase one.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and that is just meant to, it is really not meant to indicate anything about any kind of efficacy. It
Mhm.
is just meant to be a, like you'll start patients on a very, very low dose. And if they tolerate it okay, you might increase that dose. And if they tolerate that okay, you'll increase and increase and increase until they're like, not feeling so great. Um, and that's kind of the limit of the amount of drug you can give them. That's really all phase one is meant to show you, is kind of what's the upper limit of the amount of drug you can give them before they start to feel real bad.
Okay,
And
got it.
there's a very good reason for that, right? Because usually the more drug you give someone, the more likely it is to be effective. You're essentially increasing the potency,
Hmm.
but you're also increasing the risk of side effects. So
Hmm.
there's kind of that sweet spot of potency versus side effects that you're kind of looking to find out in phase one. And to be fair, I was just looking this up, about 90% of clinical drug trials fail at phase one. It's
Hmm.
really hard to get a drug that doesn't make the patient feel worse in some way. I mean, people talk, I mean, it's a kind of a good segue that, people wonder why pharmaceuticals are so expensive. And part of the reason is that it's just plain hard. Our body is very good at recognizing something foreign, even if it's a foreign something that's actually supposed to help us. Our body is very good at recognizing it as foreign and mounting an immunological defense, which actually makes us feel worse than if our bodies had done nothing. You know what I mean? If they just ignored what this drug, we'd actually probably feel fine, probably better. But that's not the way we work. Our bodies are meant to recognize what is foreign and to do a damn thing about it. That damn thing is really uncomfortable, right? Usually it'll involve something like inflammation or a fever or um, swelling or histamines or you know what I mean, some sort of um, allergy, something like that. It's uncomfortable. And the reason we do it is because it's better to have that and survive some sort of infectious biologic than die in the next few days, which is what usually happens when something foreign and immunological invades us.
I was just thinking of a analogy to immigration. Like I was thinking with immigration, one policy you could have, and I think maybe on the objectivist view should have, at least in laissez-faire sort of world, is like innocent until proven guilty. You just like let everyone in, and unless they show some sign of being a criminal or carrying a deadly disease like typhoid Mary, then otherwise you let them through. Whereas it seems like it might be sort of the reverse, the way the body has evolved. It's more like guilty until proven innocent. It screens a lot, maybe not everything that comes in, but a lot of things that come in, and it just tries to eject them. It, I don't know if I'm putting it exactly right, but you were just triggering that thought in my mind as you were explaining it. Is there something sort of like a guilty until proven innocence? I mean, there's not a court of law inside your body like at the cell level, but sort of like in effect, it's acting that way.
I mean, it's a good question, and I'm not really sure how to answer it simply because there are certain ways in which, yes, right? So a good example is gene therapy, right? Which is what I've been working on. So the idea is that the patient has a gene mutation that makes them really sick. And there are lots of different mutations that can make kids really sick. It's tragic. And all they need is one little piece of DNA in the right place. And yet, if all you did was inject them with just that piece of DNA, it would go nowhere because the body has, we'll see, oh, we've been injected with some DNA. What is this? Don't care, destroy it. We have enzymes that do exactly that job. And usually getting injected with foreign pieces of DNA is a virus. So the body's not stupid for seeing a foreign piece of DNA and flipping out about it. So there is a sense in which you're right, guilty until proven innocent when it
Like
comes to something foreign in the body.
it could be like Ayn Rand immigrating from Russia, and she could have this awesome effect on America, but the body doesn't know it's Ayn Rand. It treats it as if maybe it's Stalin or something. So
Right,
it's
exactly,
safer to do
exactly.
that. That's what, and then okay.
But the human immune system is really complicated, and there are certain things about which it's completely blind, right? Like cancer is a good example, right? Like the human immune system is very careful about not targeting um things that it recognizes as self, which is why autoimmune diseases like type 1 diabetes and lupus and rheumatoid arthritis are so devastating, is because those are cases in which the body is actually targeting self, and they're very rare because normally the body is very good at recognizing, okay, this is me and everything else we're going to destroy. Sometimes that fails, and then you end up destroying self, and it sucks. Um, but with cancer, right, those are still your cells. They're cells that definitely shouldn't be doing what they're doing. They need to be eliminated. And yet the body says, no, 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 that's me. I'm definitely not going to target me. And
Hmm.
cancer is kind of left to do what it does. So if you're asking, is it guilty until proven innocent with regard to the body? The answer is sometimes.
Uh-huh.
So, um, anyway, we're kind of getting off track, and I was looking at the chat, and Digital Gnosis is asking a very good question. Is like, what really is the concern here with the FDA? And again, I'll repeat that, the FDA really has two jobs. One is to approve drugs that make people feel better, and the other is to disallow drugs that don't. And neither of those are guaranteed with the FDA. If the FDA approves a drug, for instance, a drug that is supposed to treat Alzheimer's, does that mean that the progression of Alzheimer's for someone treated with that drug will go any slower? It does not. The FDA approves something that, so what's another example? Um,
You just before you go, so you said the the FDA, or I guess one view of what the FDA does is it approves drugs that make you feel better, and it disapproves or denies drugs that make you feel worse. But then you said that's actually not the case. It doesn't do either or both of those things,
it doesn't.
but it claims to, or some people think it does those. Is that
I think a lot of people think it does. Um,
okay?
and that's not stupid, right? That's exactly what it should do. It doesn't.
Okay.
It's not a guarantee.
So better in approving drugs, so that if you make you feel better and disapproving drugs that make you feel worse, that's distinct from proving that drugs are safe by some standard of safety and proving that they're effective. So maybe there's like these are neighboring concepts like better and safe. They're not exactly the same concept though, because you said the FDA does approve for safety, but that's not to say it approves for better. Like I guess if you come up with a new drug which is no better than any other drug, the FDA might approve that. Maybe some competitor wants to come along and make another drug.
So that's a really fair question, and it's something that digital gnosis raises too. Like, does it increase your odds of what's on the market being safer, more effective? And honestly, that's it, that's a difficult question to answer. Because it's hard to know what would be on the market if the FDA didn't exist. I have certainly worked at companies that closed their doors because of the FDA. So, for example, I worked for a company called Detection during the COVID lockdowns, and its job was to it was one of the many companies that started up to diagnose COVID, within an hour and a half. Um, and for, maybe $7. I mean, that was the expense of the drug. It wasn't necessarily the price of the drug. Hold on, my daughter has just come back.
Sure. All right. Megan has a daughter who I think she mentioned in the last time she was on the call. She was on a stream several weeks ago or a month or two or something. But if you look on my list of live streams on the live tab of my YouTube channel, you can see the call that I had with her. She's in the title. Her name is in the title. Um, I don't think we talked. Oh, we didn't really talk about FDA much. I don't think at all that I remember when she was on last time. She was asking me about my channel. I think what I saw is the value in it. So I think that was more the subject of her last call. I was just telling the audience about a little about your last call and how I think I remember your daughter also came by at a certain point. So I guess that's one of the things that happens when you have a daughter. They come by sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I think I heard her. So actually,
Yes, you did.
there's proof or some evidence at least.
She's very good at projecting. Yes. Yeah, so yeah, with regard to your question about, does and digital gnosis question about like does the FDA sorry, I was talking about Qtaction, right? And its job was to offer a diagnostic for COVID that you could get an answer within like an hour and a half. Um, and for relatively cheaply, at least in terms of like the cost of goods. I don't know what they would have charged for it, but it's irrelevant because we submitted our emergency use authorization paperwork and that were heard back. And the company only had so much runway, that is so much money to
Mhm.
kind of keep operating because I don't work for free and nobody else at this company worked for free, right? So when that cash was burned and the FDA said nothing about whether we could offer this to people for money, um, we had to close our doors. So that's an example of where, it's hard to know what therapeutics and what diagnostics would be available on the market and whether they would be more or less effective. But here was a case where it was very effective, right? Like it could diagnose you if you had 20 copies of the COVID virus. I mean, they're like a ridiculously small number. I could test almost 100 patients in an hour and a half, um, and will never be available. Um, so I hope that gives at least some indication of like, is the FDA better about weeding out things that will make patients feel worse? I don't think so. I'd like to say that the answer is yes, and I don't think so. Another example I have was, and I was mentioning this in the previous stream, was I worked for this company called Synlogic. And the whole idea was that you would engineer the good the E. coli that you need to survive in your gut, not the E. coli that gives you like, like hemorrhagic diarrhea, but like the good E. coli to pull out the nutrients in food that make some metabolically challenged patients sick. So a good example is people with PKU, phenylketonuria. Phenylalanine is one of 20 amino acids that is in every single protein. See the baby? Um, and so you can't really avoid it. And yet, for these patients, they see phenylalanine and it's toxic to them. And the more they see of it, the more toxic it is. And by toxic, I mean that they start having like um, mental issues. It starts affecting their brain in a permanent way, among other things. So they really can't even eat like half a cup of yogurt. Um, even they can't, it's really bad. And like imagine not being able to eat really anything proteinaceous your entire life. Like how that would affect you. You would get brain fog all the time. At least a lot of the young men who have PKU do. It would be hard to focus enough to get through your college classes. That was kind of one of the stories we heard from one of our patients. So Synlogic had engineered these E. coli to pull those nutrients out of food while you were digesting it, so that you could enjoy the rest of your food without the toxic component. But they never actually measured the amount of those enzymes that were supposed to do that. They engineered it and didn't actually bother to see how much of that engineered protein was actually made by these, like good E. coli, how much actually survived being ingested, because, the ingestion process is pretty brutal. It's kind of your body's job is to break things down when you eat it. If it breaks down the E. coli before it has a chance to pull out the phenylalanine, for example, it's not a very effective therapeutic, but they didn't actually bother to test that. Um, and when I kind of raise these questions, they're like, F you, Meghann. Um, and that's not exactly a direct quote, but it's pretty close. Um, there's a lot more to be said about kind of the horrific scientific epistemology there and kind of what I learned from that and how I could have saved them millions and probably the company, and nobody wanted to hear it. But in any case,
So this was
so,
a private company that you were working with, and
uh-huh.
it was some people there that gave you the FU message when you were.
Oh yeah. Although to be fair, I heard from the grapevine later that it definitely wasn't personal. Like I was not the only person to be asking the right questions and to get the boot. So take that for what it's worth. Um, in any case, so this is maybe 3 years ago. I said, look, I have looked at your clinical data and I've looked at your translational data, which means I've looked at the data that's come from the mice patients, the non-human primate patients. Um, there's the way you're dosing your patients, it's it's not going to be effective. You're using the wrong metric to both develop your processes and dose your patients. And indeed, they'd done phase 1, 2, and you'd see some patients that, over 2 weeks felt better, and some patients who felt worse. And on average, it's about the same, which if you took those same 8 patients and did nothing to them, or in other words, had their standard of care, some of them would have felt better over 2 weeks. Some of them would have felt worse, right? Like some would have been better about their diet. Some would have been like, forget it. I'll just have a steak. They wouldn't, something like that. I'll have half a cup of yogurt. Um, that's just kind of how it goes for most patients over 2 weeks. There's really nothing to indicate that the drug did anything. And yet
Mhm.
the FDA was like, you know what? Good enough for us. Let's go to phase 3. Let's see if this is actually effective. I'm like,
Hmm.
you should know better.
So this is a counterexample to the idea that people think the FDA only approves drugs that will make you feel better than, well, I guess the question is better than what? Like better than other drugs currently on the market would make you feel, or just better than if you hadn't take any drugs at all?
Yeah, I mean
or
normally it's better than again standard of care, right? Like the and they actually did test I think a couple of patients against the standard of care. This was kind of a weird experiment because normally it would always be in addition to the standard of care. But yeah, there was really no indication in either set of patients that this drug was doing anything. The other thing that was really galling was that at the same time the FDA was saying you have to show efficacy of at least 20% by this one biomarker. Now, let me say something about biomarkers. They are meant to correlate with the progression of the disease, right? So if you see a reduction in a biomarker, you'd expect you'd see a corollary reduction in the progression of the disease. Not necessarily that those two have anything to do with each other biologically. And that's now you may be asking, well, that seems really arbitrary. There's a very good reason why we use biomarkers, and that is because the the time in which it takes to go through the FDA clinical trials is about 10 years on average, and easily tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions, right? So like really for certain diseases, it takes years, sometimes decades to know if you're seeing a slowing down of the progression of the disease. Alzheimer's is a good example of that, right? Like day to day, are you going to be able to see like someone having less cognitive decline rather than the normal amount of cognitive decline? No, you can't tell. And yet you only have, as a company, you only have so much runway, right? You
Mhm.
can't wait 10 years to for your patients to show, oh yeah, on average they tend to decline slower than the
Mhm.
average Alzheimer's patient. So you look for some marker that correlates with the progression of the disease, but that you can see a difference faster. That's what the FDA is looking for. So when I say that the FDA doesn't necessarily approve drugs that will make patients feel any better, that's what I mean. They're looking for something that will show a significant difference in a certain biomarker that correlates, but does not necessarily have any biological relationship, any causal relationship to the disease itself.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I understand at least part of that. Okay, can you give an example of a biomarker
Um,
just to
that's a good
concretize it a bit?
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember the name of the gene. So there was actually one in Alzheimer's. And I'm so sorry. I was actually just reading an article about this a couple of days ago. Um, it was this blood marker. So, for example, with Alzheimer's, when we think of the progression of the disease, we think of people um, losing their short-term memory, right? So if you hand them their keys 5 minutes ago, they might ask, where are my keys? I'm like, well, I handed it to you 5 minutes ago. So that is an actual indicator of the disease, is if they start to lose their short-term memory. But that's very hard to measure and its progression is very slow. What you really so one of the biomarkers is this is a blood test you can do, and it's for the RNA of a particular disease, and it's this five-letter acronym that I'm totally forgetting. I'm so sorry. Um, so that actually they've discovered recently that there is actually a causal relationship, but that was one of the biomarkers they would use to measure, they would just do a blood test rather than actually see, okay, is this person's short-term memory worse
Mhm.
or the same over a period of a year or 5 years or 10 years. They would say,
Yeah.
has this amount of RNA changed in their blood
Uh,
over a period of, 6 weeks or 6 months?
and if it has changed, then that suffices for the FDA to call it effective or oh, okay.
Yeah.
So even though it's not really effective, it just it correlates with something that is effective.
Yeah, they don't necessarily need to show that this biomarker has any causal relationship. You know what I mean? To
So it
the
might just be a coincidence that I guess what they have thought correlated, or I guess they can be confident that something has correlated with whatever it is that actually is effective in reducing the disease. But if it might turn out that the correlation is it doesn't hold forever because they haven't established a causal relationship. Um, so they rely on correlation rather than causation to uh, give it the stamp of effectiveness.
yes.
Um, okay, so when they say they test drugs for being safe and effective, they're not really doing that. It's more like testing it for safety and proxy or correlate
Yeah, I
of
would say when they say safe and
what might
effective,
be
what that
effective.
actually means is not worse. Safe means not worse. It doesn't mean no side effects. It means
Yeah,
not worse
yeah.
side
Uh,
effects. And when they say effective, it means correlates with something promising.
okay. Yeah, I'm just taking some notes here. So I'll probably have to re-listen to this stream to for everything to sink in because there's a lot of dense material here, but that's good.
Yeah, and
It's
like I'm sorry, I'm watching the chat and I think Digital Gnosis is making some really good points and really really benevolent. So I want to give props for that. And I actually just want to read this last chat. I think we should
sure. Yeah,
all
I
be
haven't been
open.
looking at the chat at all because my mind is like using all the horsepower it has just to follow what you're saying, let alone
Thank
what's going
you.
on in the chat.
I appreciate that. I have
But
so many. I mean, they are anecdotes, but I think that they're really, I mean, I don't want to say that they're biomarkers for what the FDA is doing, but I think they're valuable lessons learned, and I think people should hear them. Um,
yeah, well,
so
feel
I'm
free
just gonna
to
read this.
engage with the chat if you like.
Thank you. I was gonna say the last thing Digital Gnosis said. I'm sorry, I'm not following this perfectly, Digital Gnosis, but it says, I think we should all be open to the idea that the FDA is bad or needs improvements, but our opinions here should be shaped by good empirical data. We can't use anecdotes here, in my opinion. And that's really fair. You know, if what I was telling you was just the experience of one diagnostic and one therapeutic among thousands, um, that wouldn't be impactful except to, you know, people trying to decide whether or not they should stay home from COVID, which was quite a number of people in 2020, and also people with PKU, which aren't that many people. I think I really do feel for those people. I think they do matter, but that's probably not enough of a reason to say the FDA is the most evil institution in American government, as I am now willing to say. Um, so why do I think that these anecdotes are enough for me to say something so damning? Um, Part of it is the arbitrariness of it. And I haven't even told you what I think is the worst part. So for Synlogic, the FDA told Synlogic you need to show a 20% reduction in a certain biomarker for us to approve it. Now, why 20%? No reason, right? It did not matter to the FDA if the drug was cheaper. And let me say that PKU patients spend easily $200 a week just on some shake that they have to drink in order to kind of not have too much of the brain fog, like to order in order to kind of function sort of normally. That's not their whole grocery bill. That's just a shake that they drink every morning, right? Like they're the expense of them living is astronomical, right? So if we had offered them something that would make life a little bit cheaper to live, FDA didn't care about that. If it was somewhat more palatable, because let me tell you, if you've ever tried the food that PKU patients eat, it's disgusting. To the FDA, it did not matter, right? A lot of people with PKU cheat on their diet, which is horrible for them. Can't keep either because of the expense, the unpalatability, or both. They cheat on their diet all the time, right? So if we had offered them a drug that was just a little bit easier for them to take, FDA didn't care about that at all. 20%.
Mm.
That's what we needed to show.
Mm.
And so on the one hand, they totally failed to see when something was statistically not doing a damn thing, right? They were not showing safety at all. And on the other hand, they were just arbitrarily asserting what was effective. Did not matter what the patients actually wanted or needed. This is what they had, declared was effective. And I think, again, while that, to digital gnosis' point, while that's just an anecdote, I think that's one worth taking note, right? That they not only that they think that this is okay at the FDA, but there's no one to stop them from doing this. This is allowed.
I had a thought, or at least a half-baked glimmer of a thought, reading that last comment from Digital Gnosis. Let me see if I can try to articulate um, what I had in mind. So the phrase that came to my mind was right to try. And I don't know if that has a technical meaning or not, but in any case, I think one thing that should be allowed is that people do have a right to try because it's their own body. Like even if the FDA has not shown that something is safe or effective, maybe um, maybe it's just a complete unknown, but because it's your body, I think you should have the right to decide what happens to your body. I mean, you have a right to commit suicide. I don't think that should be taken away. So, and that's like the extreme, right? Putting yourself to death. So I think like even a lesser degree of, taking some drug, which could make you really sick, or maybe it results in your death. Still, I think you should be allowed to do that because it's your body. Who is anyone else to tell you what kind of risks that you should be allowed to take?
Yeah, I mean that so there is such a thing as the compassionate use. Um I forget it's like the compassionate use it's sort of an exception. Um so a good example is in gene therapy our patients tend to be really young, right? These are genetic diseases that affect their development from the very beginning. So one of the diseases I was working on is called CCD, or sorry, CDD, CDLK5 deficiency disease. So these patients have seizures that are very hard to treat from the very beginning. They're always developmentally delayed, and if they make it to 40, they're lucky. Um, and so our patients tend to be very young because the longer you wait to treat them, to give them a dose of the right gene sequence, um, the further they go down the wrong developmental path. And that you can't reverse. You can, wherever they are in the developmental path, you can kind of shift them onto the right developmental path, but you can't reverse what's already been done. Um, so, by the time kids are adolescents, for a lot of these diseases, it's too late. You know what I mean? You can give them something to treat Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, for example, but they won't walk. They'll still be in a wheelchair. So, you can give them the compassionate use sort of exception, but really, that's That's a dose that probably took $1 million to produce. It's the other reason why a lot of these drugs are so expensive is that when it comes to gene therapy, a 10 milliliter dose, right? Like enough to fill a little syringe, started its life as a 40-gallon bioreactor. And let me tell you, that bioreactor is mostly disgusting. You have to do a lot of purification, which means a lot of different operations, all of which are really expensive, a lot of which are not very reusable, right? Like it's just expensive to produce. It's a lifetime dose, which in the end makes them cheaper, but the upfront cost is it's a high sticker price because it's just hard to produce. And by the way, the several years that it took the researchers to like figure out how to produce this drug and how to create it in the first place, they aren't working for free. Research is expensive. Oh my gosh, let me tell you stories. Anyway, um, so when it comes to the, right to try, that's good, sort of. And the FDA does have the sort of compassionate use case. Um, but from the perspective of a therapeutic company, that's maybe $1 million of production that's not actually going to help a patient. It's not actually going to prove to the FDA that this is a drug worth approving and selling on the market. It's it's data you can't really use. And by the way, really expensive data. Um, that's typically why drug companies are so reluctant to do something like that, is because that if you have this sort of right to try, it doesn't make the FDA go away. It doesn't make the approval process any less lengthy or expensive or risky.
Yeah,
And it
I was
doesn't make
thinking
the
about
drug
it.
any cheaper.
I was thinking about it more from the perspective of the patient than of the drug company. But that's also an interesting perspective, like just from the financial point of view, like how the FDA affects them. So my reply to digital Gnosis was more um, aimed at the issue of the patient. Like digital Gnosis, what do you think as a patient? Like, let's say you're the one with some disease and there's no known cure on the market, but um, it's been gone through FDA and got its approval for safe and effectiveness. None of those work. But there's something that hasn't gone through the FDA. Maybe some private physician or scientist in his basement who has a Nobel Prize has come up with something, and you might only have a few months to live unless you try this out now. So, do you think you should be able to try this out? Um, Now, I'm interested in this compassionate use that you mentioned. I've heard of something like this. So, if you are in this sort of situation, i- does the FDA, it sometimes grants an exception, like even though this drug hasn't gone through the FDA process, we will grant approval in this case, this exceptional case, and they call it compassionate use. Is that what that is, or is it
Yeah,
something
I
else?
don't know all of the, like I haven't read all of the legalese behind it. I think the FDA doesn't, it's not something you'd grant if a drug had washed out of phase one, right? If it had been shown to have some severe side effects or safety concerns, I don't think they'd let you do they'd grant a compassionate use case, even if the patient was willing. I don't know that for sure. I will say, however, I am late to a dinner date, so I should
Okay.
go. But thank you for
Okay.
having me on, and thank you for having me just like this has been on my chest for years and years, and I think it's yeah, I've been it's felt very good to kind of just let this out.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad I could help in that way. And thank you for coming on. I really appreciate the conversation and having an expert who can talk about something which I certainly can't talk about in this sort of depth and detail. So it's good to have these kinds of guests. So I invite you to come back anytime.
Well, thank you. Have a good
Sure.
night.
All right, you too. Bye bye. All righty. Well, that was good. Glad she could be here. I see someone else has joined the waiting room, Martina, whose name I don't recognize. And let's see, I've been going for almost 2.5 hours now because I started streaming at 1. Um, but I can go a bit longer. Let's just look at the chat and see what else is in here. So it looks like it's just digital gnosis. Um, Megan says, thank you all in the chat. Uh, yeah, thanks to Megan for coming on. Um, yeah, it looks like mostly the chat is digital gnosis. I'm talking about FDA. Okay, and then Godzilla says, Meg, thank you for the information you're sharing with us. L says, so much learning. Um, Simon Grassi says, thank you. Hi, Simon. Ilan Igosi says, how does this work? Well, this is a call-in show, and I've pinned in the chat the instructions for how to call in. So there's a link to Zoom. If you click on that link, you can get in my Zoom waiting room, or there's also a phone number you can dial, which is also in that message. Uh, oh, by the way, I just noticed the like button here on. So I want to say, if you like this stream, I'd appreciate it if you give it a like. That'll help it in the algorithm. And also, I definitely appreciate new subscribers. So I'm trying to grow the channel and always looking to add new people. So, um, all right. So I think I'm pretty much caught up in the chat. I'm not going to go through every single comment by Digital Gnosis because that was on the topic of the FDA, which I guess that topic is for now we're finished with that, I think. Um, Maybe I'll come back to it later in another stream. But maybe I'll see what this call is. Now, I've got to make sure I have video turned off. Oh, there's two people now in the waiting room, Martina and Oppo Reno 8. And if I go into yeah, okay. So I see now that I went into my host tools in Zoom. It shows that the start video is checked. So it looks like that gets reset after every call. So after Megan left, it got checked again to allow participants to start their own video. So I have to uncheck that after every call. So let me do that right now before I forget. Um, okay. So now, if we have a crazy person join, at the worst, it's only going to be crazy audio. That's what I hope at least. And I don't know why it took so long for me to even find the mute button last time I had to use it. But hopefully, if I need to use the mute button, I will be able to find it quickly. Um, Now, I don't recognize either of these names, and that makes me a little nervous, um, even though I've got the video turned off. Um, so Martina or Reno 8. Actually, there's another thing I want to test here. I want to see if I can. Oh, Oppo 8, whatever that name was, just left. Um, so the other person who's in there, Martina, I don't recognize your name from the chat. So I have no idea who that person is. But there was another thing I wanted to test, which is sending a message to someone in the waiting room, which I figured out I can actually do. I wasn't able to do that last time, but I'm going to try it now and see if I get a reply from Martina. I just wrote hi in the chat to Martina. So I want to see if Martina replies. Can you reply to that chat, Martina? Maybe I'll get give a timer. And if you don't reply within like a minute or something, then maybe I will just remove you from the waiting room. I think well, never mind that. Um, okay, I gotta look at maybe I'll give another 30 seconds. And if Martina doesn't reply, then I will just remove her or him. Who knows who this is, right? I guess they can choose their own screen names, so and they can change their screen names. There's a way for me to disable that, I think, so that only I can rename someone who has previously been in the waiting room. But I want to allow people to choose their own names and maybe even change their names. So I don't think I want to activate that. All right. Well, it's been uh, over 30 seconds, and there's still no reply from Martina. So, you know what, Martina? I'm not going to take a chance. I'm just going to remove you. All right. Martina has been removed. She didn't reply to my message in the Zoom chat. So I don't know if she stepped away or had some sinister intention, but that's my screening. My screening is you have to go through a little bit of screening if something seems like a little suspicious or maybe there's going to be an issue. All right, I see we got a couple new people here in the chat. Half Cynics says Martina. That's my cousin's name. Hopefully she's not watching this. And Ronald Reagan uh, says make sure that someone can reply because sometimes it doesn't let people in the waiting room reply. I tested this earlier on myself on my phone, um, and I was able to reply. So I don't know. It should you should be able to reply. And whoever it is, I could have said something in YouTube chat as well. At least if the person has a YouTube account, which I guess most people do, and said, "Hey, I'm in Zoom" or something. Um, but I didn't see anything. Okay. Godzilla says if they are interested but stepped away, they'll be back. So no worries. Yeah, they can come back. Um, all right. And then we have a comment from My Cool. All right. Is this just an insult? Um, I might not read it if it's just an insult or a disrespectful comment. Um, which this one seems like it may be. So if you're going to be impolite, then uh, I might just ignore you. Um, I'm here to have civil discussion. And oh, you say not trying to be rude. I just write blunts. Uh, okay. Well, I'm not sure what kind of distinction to draw. I mean, you could ask your question in a different way. Like if you think like you could say what disagreement you have with Ayn Rand's. So like how could you agree with selfishness or something? And I could talk about selfishness. Um, but there are different ways to ask a question. Um, Omzar Inanity says it's a question, man. Answer it. What if it's a rude question? Why should I answer a question that's being disrespectful? What if someone asks you, why are you such an idiot? How did you become such a dumbass? Should I entertain that question or should I just ignore that question? Should I sanction it by giving it any time? I don't think so. Ronald Reagan says he's in the waiting room. Oh, it says two people are in the waiting room now. Um, all right, let me see. All right, maybe there's more. Well, I'll spend one more minute on the chat and then I'm gonna um, see who these callers are, see if I can chat with them. Simon Grassi says, what do you reply to people who equate objectivism to religion and Ayn Rand as the Messiah? Mm, I'm not sure. Like, I'm trying to think if I've ever come across someone who's addressed that to me specifically. I mean, I've seen people say this sort of thing, but I don't know if they've asked me this. Um, but I guess one thing I might say, if they say it in a polite enough way, I mean, if they're super rude about it, I might just ignore them or block them. But if they say it in a way that is sufficiently civil, I might say something like, religion involves faith, which is believing something without evidence. You just take something on faith, and um, you might believe in something like the Trinity. Like Jesus is fully man, but also fully God and Holy Ghost. And how is that supposed to make sense? Well, you just have to take it on faith, right? You can't really make sense of that rationally, but it's part of the faith. Well, there's nothing like that in objectivism. You don't just blindly believe something. You only believe something if there's evidence for it, if there's sensory evidence for it, or it makes sense logically. So that's one way I would differentiate objectivism from religion. They're radically different when it comes to epistemology. That is how they treat knowledge. Um, all right. Uh, yeah, Mark Thomas says you are not obliged to. This is your show. That's right. That's right. My cool says I could write far more rudely than that. Yeah, I'm sure you could. And I've seen far worse than that. I've seen people tell me to kill myself. I've seen people say awful things or like tell, uh, there's all kinds of garbage out there. And we saw some of it on this stream. You know, someone tried to bomb it. The last stream, the last two streams, I guess I can say now. There's horrible stuff out there. And I don't want to give it a platform. I want to filter it out. So I block people a lot because I don't want to deal with those things. I think some people are not worth dealing with. They don't deserve it. Um, and it makes more room for people who are worth dealing with. I think that improves the quality of the discussion. It raises the bar, and I think that will um, it could help attract the kind of people I want to attract. Because if I filter out garbage from my chat or from my comment section, then people don't have to waste their time looking through it. They can their time will be spent on more substantive, worthwhile um, people and comments, and hopefully people can change themselves for the better if they have been acting inappropriately. Um, and I think apologizing can be part of the way to reform. All right. Um, Let me take a look at these people in the chat. Okay, so now we've got Ronald Reagan and someone else who maybe is just a troll. Maybe it's the same person who came by before because the username looks kind of silly. I don't even know if I want to read the username, but I'm going to test out this message feature in Zoom. Let me check my host tools, make sure the start video is still unchecked. Um, so I'm going to message. Does it make me? Yeah, I guess I can only message everyone in the waiting room on Zoom. It doesn't allow me to just message a particular person. So I'm just going to say hi. And I just wrote hi in the Zoom chat. So let me see if anyone writes back. So there's two people in the waiting room. Let me know if write hi back or something in the chat on Zoom. Oh, Ronald Reagan says he can't respond. It's not letting me. Why isn't it letting you respond? Huh. Um, I wonder why that is. See, when I tested it earlier, it was from my own phone, but maybe it let me respond because it recognized I was the person running the count. I was also the host, so I had the privilege to respond, but I'm not sure that's right. I wonder if I call in my phone number rather than my Zoom account. Huh. Um, all right. Well, I don't think I want to spend the time to figure that out right now. But since one person in here, the name seems kind of suspicious, I think I'm going to skip that person, even though it looks like that person might have joined first. Um, so if you, if you if the name you have on Zoom starts with an I, that person, uh, I'd like you to identify yourself in the YouTube chat. Um, and I guess only you will know the full name. So uh, right at the full name, your full name, which starts with an I, in the YouTube chat, if you want me to admit you on Zoom, maybe I'll give you 1 minute to do that. Um, yeah, I think I'll do that. I'll give you 1 minute. I'm kind of curious, even if I go to Ronald Reagan's call first. Before I get to that, I think I want to see if this person replies. So write out your full name in the YouTube chat, which starts with an I, if you want to have a chance of coming on Zoom. I get a new person, some new people in the chat here. Fitzy man, what's your opinion on Trump? I think he's very bad. Very bad. I've done streams before where I talk about Trump. So if you look in my live streams on my YouTube channel in the live tab, you'll see I think there are at least a couple videos where I have Trump mentioned in the title. So I talk more at length in those. So you can check those out for now to get more of my opinion on Trump. All right, it's been over a minute, and I don't see any response in the YouTube chat from this person whose name allegedly starts with an I. So, boom, you're gone. All right, I think I'm getting better at screening people. That's the second person I've screened out today. Um, all right, so now there's only Ronald Reagan in the chat or in the waiting room on Zoom. Oh wow, we're up to 16 people watching now. That's a record. Awesome. I am really glad I kept going on this stream. I think the highest I've ever seen it get before was like 10 or 12. Um, so we've gone beyond that. We're well into the double digits, at least the teens part of the double digits. By the way, I'd appreciate it if you would give the stream a like. Maybe that's been helping. Maybe some people are helping push the stream out in the algorithm. So definitely appreciate it if you give the stream a like, if you like it. And also, I definitely appreciate new subscribers. So I hope that some people will choose to subscribe. Uh, all right, we got a new subscriber. I don't know if that just happened now when I said it, but I just checked my page and it says 849 subscribers now. Almost up to 850. Anyone want to be number 850? Um, so once I get up to, I gotta, my phone is talking. I gotta mute it. Once I get up to 1,000 subscribers, you'll no longer know exactly which subscriber you are, I think, because it only shows you three digits. Like, once you get to 1,000, it's not going to show you the ones digit. It'll only show you the thousands digit, the hundreds digit, and the tens digit. So unless you happen to be, the one who takes it to the next 10, like 1,010 subscribers, you're not going to know exactly which subscriber you are. So if you want to know exactly which subscriber you are, which number, like if you want to be able to say, I was Dan's 877th subscriber, 877, that number is mine. You can say that now, at least until it gets up to 1,000. Because after 1,000, it's not going to tell you exactly which number you are anymore, unless you happen to be the one when it goes up by 10. Or if you've got like 10,000 subscribers, then you're only going to know if you're the person who's like starts the next 100 subscribers. Um, so you can get into the elusive club of people know who exactly what your number is in the history of Dan Norton's channel. Um, oh, Godzilla says it's up to 852 now. Oh, I gotta see that on my ends. How do I refresh this? Uh, Excellent, 852. This is awesome. Awesome. So I guess putting out a call for subscribers. See, now I don't even know who's number 850, number 851, or 852 because they all came in at the same time. But you'll know you are at least in the range. Say you won't be able to say I was number 850, but you can say I was number 850 through 852 or somewhere in there. Although it might actually tell you. Um, like because maybe when you click the subscribe button, you can see it go up like right then. if you at least if you refresh the page. So maybe you can, but I'm not checking it instantly, like every time it goes up by one. So you might know better than I exactly which number you are. And also, not everyone has their subscription set to public. So I don't see everyone. I don't get a notification of everyone who subscribes because if you have your subscription set to private, then I will find out like my numbers will go up, but I won't see the name that corresponds to those numbers unless you have your subscription set to public, which some people do. I don't know what percentage, maybe like a third or so, maybe a quarter of my subscribers. I actually know who they are, or I know their YouTube screen name at least. Um, but anyways, this is great. This is great. And then the other great thing about getting up to 1,000 subscribers on my end is then I can apply to YouTube to have my channel monetized, and I can start making money at this. It can become a self-funding venture. That's going to be awesome. So definitely appreciate anyone who helps me get there. Well, besides getting 1,000 subscribers, I also need to get a certain amount of watch time, which I usually don't mention just to keep it simple. But in addition to having 1,000 subscribers, the other requirement I need to meet is 4,000 hours of watch time within the last 12 months. So within the last year. And that seems doable, at least if I keep up doing these live streams like I've been. I've been getting a lot more watch time than usual from doing the live streams as compared to when I just did pre-recorded videos. Um, I guess maybe the average is higher. I'm not sure. I haven't done all the analytics, but it seems like I've been getting more watch time. And if I keep up at the same rate, I think I will be able to meet that 4,000 hours in the last 12 months. And that's going to increase with more subscribers because the more people I have watching, the more subscribers I have, the more people are going to be watching. So the two correlate. They go up together. All right. Ronald Reagan has been patiently waiting in the um, waiting room, and I see there's been some more chats, but um, I don't want to keep them waiting for too long in the waiting room on Zoom. So I think I'm just going to look back at the chat later and check out one of these calls now. By the way, I might, well, no, I'll mention that later. Okay, I'm going to go back to Zoom. All right, so Ronald Reagan. Okay. Admits.
What's up?
All right. Hi, Ronald Reagan. I can hear you.
Oh, you can hear
Well,
me?
welcome to the show.
Yeah, yeah. How's it going, man?
Going
Yeah,
pretty well.
yeah.
How are you
Doing
doing?
good. I'm doing fine, thank you. Why is everyone being so rude to you, like in your chat? Like, I don't, I don't know why. It's like everyone's just being like a dickhead towards you.
Well, not everyone is rude. I have many good chatters, but I have a y- just an open chat, so it's any
Yeah,
random person can join my stream or participate in the chat. And
yeah.
there are many trolls out there,
Hmm.
and but I try to block those people,
Lot of
so I don't
those.
always do it immediately. But um, if I had a moderator to help me out, that might I might do that quicker. But sometimes I will go back later, like if there are people making rude messages in the chat, I might go back later and block those people.
You could get
To
moderators in the chat. Like, you could like mod somebody.
Yeah, I might eventually look into doing that. Right now, I'm just doing everything myself. But yeah, at some point, I might try to get a moderator to help me out. If anyone out there wants to volunteer to be a moderator, feel free to get in touch with me. You can email me or get in touch with me through some other way, and
Yeah.
I would consider it. I guess I'm more likely to want to take someone else on board to help out in that way if I know the person and I've interacted with them for a while, so I've built up a certain level of trust. So yeah, at a certain point, that might be a really good idea. But right now, I'm just doing it all on my own.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, so
So
let me
anyways,
get my video
so
started. Oh, I can't start my video.
yeah, you can't
How do
start
I
the
do this?
video. I think I have the video turned off right now
Okay.
because we've had some problems with people abusing
Oh,
the
people
video
abusing that. Oh,
feature.
okay, okay, yeah.
And I think
Yeah,
until I get to a point where I know a person better and I'm more comfortable, then
yeah.
I'll just do audio until that point.
Okay.
So
Audio. All right, perfect.
okay, all right. So there's a troll. There's a troll right there, Ronald Reagan, who's pretending to be a decent person. And you see what happens. You know, I'm talking about trolls to a troll, and yeah, and so you got to be careful there. So I'm glad I got to at least the video part, and I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Um, but yeah, you got nasty people out there. So yeah, I will definitely be blocking Ronald Reagan later. Blocking Ronald Reagan, or at least the person whose screen name is Ronald Reagan. Um, yeah, maybe I'll have to edit that out too. I'm going to submit a Zoom report on him also. So maybe Zoom can track him down. Maybe they'll find his IP address. Maybe I can also put YouTube on his case, report him to YouTube, get him knocked off YouTube. Um, because these people, yeah, they definitely deserve some punishment. All right, so I got to filter them out. Got to filter them out. Separate the good from the bad. All right. All right. Just submitted a report to Zoom on him, and now there's one other person in the waiting room, but I'm not in a rush to get to him or her. Um, I want to go to check something else out in my analytics. See if one of my videos is still processing. Um, yeah, so maybe some others of you can learn from this. So if there are other people out there who want to start a channel, you can see some of the things you have to deal with. Um, and maybe, you can learn more quickly on how to do things based on my experience. So some of these things I learned the hard way, but you can learn the easy way, and we can increase the chance of having a good community here. Um, oh, nice. So I see someone has their subscription set to public. I can see the screen name of one of the people. Um, so thank you for subscribing. I don't know if sometimes people might subscribe without knowing whether their subscriptions are set to public or private, and um, maybe I won't say who it is because this person might not want it to be public. But anyways, you know who you are, who subscribed 1 to 2 hours ago. Thanks for subscribing. Your name starts with a D. I'll just say that. And yeah. Okay. Let me do a refresh on this page. Did I do the oh, I think Ronald Reagan was the one who was saying he couldn't see the message in Zoom. I wonder if he was lying. Maybe that uh, it'd be interesting to get a person who is legit to see if they can respond to one of my messages on Zoom. I'm just looking back at the chat. All right, I'm going to screenshot this so there's more I can do to more evidence. And let's see, should I block Ronald Reagan right now, or should I do it later? Um, maybe I should. Sometimes I like seeing the chats people have before I block them. He's definitely getting blocked. It's just a question of, do I do it right now, or do I do it later? I don't know if it matters that much. Oh, there's another person I see who's going to get blocked. Um, yeah, maybe I'll weed out some of these people right now. Or maybe I can, maybe there's a way to copy the, well, maybe I'll say that later. Copy. I'm just doing something behind the scenes here. Um, be back shortly. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Okay. Ronald Reagan is blocked. Oh, I see. It still gives me an option to view the deleted messages. Okay, that's nice. At least I can see the deleted messages. I don't know if you can all. I would guess that only I can see the deleted messages, but maybe for you it just says message deleted or removed or something. But Ronald Reagan is gone. I saw him say he has a VPN. Oh, so you can't find his IP. He has to hide his bad behavior. Okay, well, maybe there's some kind of digital footprint that can be used. I guess YouTube will still know who the person is. I think if let's see, does it still give me? Yeah, it still gives me a report button. I can still report him to YouTube. So maybe he could still get in trouble with YouTube. Maybe Zoom as well, but YouTube knows his account, right? Who else did I want to block here? um, I know I saw at least one other person I was going to block. Oh, I think I found it. I'm just making sure that, yeah, I'm just reading this person's chats before I block them. Um, And I want to see, where did they start? This is longer than I get. Wow, I've already gone for over 3 hours now. So if you include the stream before this, because I had to restart the stream after about an hour. But total streaming time today is where it's like around 3 hours now, which is a record. So um, new things happen, and uh, half cynics. Was that the one? Actually, there were a couple. Who was the other one? I tried to join, but it doesn't show me in the waiting room. Half cynics tried to join the Zoom chat or the Zoom call. So I don't know if there's some things here which might just be lies. I'm not going to read all this. So you can just consider this a break, intermission, uh, while the host manages things. Since I don't have moderators, there's advantage to doing this myself because I like being able to know what's going on. I guess it's getting close to the end of the chat. Oh, it jumped forward. Scroll, scroll, scroll. All right, half cynics is gone. Just removed another, or just blocked another person. And I think I see who I'm going to block next. I just want to scroll up. See where the chats start. Darwin is back. He says, laugh out loud, just got back. This has been quite chaotic. Good luck with everything, Dan. Thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, there's been some trolls on here. I had to end the first stream. I had to private the first stream because someone tried to bomb it. The same person as last time. And I started a new stream and I figured out the video setting, how to work the video setting so that the same thing didn't happen again. So apparently after every call, I have to unselect the option that lets the participant start the video. I can't just do it once at the beginning of a Zoom call. And so then the screening got better and the video was no longer a problem, but some troll came on here and he actually asked if he could use video. And I said no. I said not until I know someone better. And then he uh, he tried to he did something bad himself, which I think also violated YouTube terms of service. And so then I removed him, but fortunately it was only audio in that case. But I got rid of that troll. But now there's some trolls who they haven't made it to the Zoom room yet. I'm screening them out at the YouTube chat phase. So that's what's been going on. I gotta screen out bad people so make more room for good people. So I'm just oh, I'm checking my chat log here so I can see the last one I was looking at, so I don't lose track. 408. So as I said, this is just like an intermission. We're taking a break here. Got some new people showing up. Welcome to the stream if you're a new person, and if you're a good person. All right. Mixed Philippines journey. You're gone. Locked. All right, that was the last one I remember that I needed to delete from the chat. And that person said they were trying to get in on Zoom. So there is one person I see in the Zoom waiting room. So maybe it is that same person. So, all right, here So if you are the person in the Zoom waiting room, type something in the chat. I guess you can't do it if you've been blocked now, but that will be good for me to know because if you don't say anything in in the YouTube chat, then that will tell me that maybe you are the person that I just blocked, and then I won't let you in on Zoom. So I will start my timer. I will give you 1 minute. So person in the Zoom waiting room, um, tell me what your name is in the Zoom waiting room. Write your name on the YouTube chat. 1 minute, go. Okay, see some new people here. Maybe I'll engage with some of these new people in the chat after I deal with this person in the Zoom waiting room who has about 25 seconds left. Ten, nine, eight, seven, six, five, four, three, two, one. All right. You failed. Remove. All right. Gone. All right. Now no one is in the Zoom waiting room. My guess is that was just a troll. Good, good, good. We're cleaning the place up. That's how we make the world a better place. One way we make the world a better place. Okay, so let me see my analytics. All right, so if you're here for the first time, I'll just introduce myself. I guess you can already see on my channel, but I'm an Ayn Rand fan, and I promote Ayn Rand on my channel. So if anyone wants to chat, that's what I'm here for. We can chat, we don't have to chat about Ayn Rand, but I will be coming from the perspective of what I have learned from Ayn Rand, because she came up with a philosophy called Objectivism, which I think is a great philosophy, and that's what I use as my framework for thinking about all kinds of things, pretty much anything, really. Okay. Still got 11 people here, it looks like, with 11 likes, it says. Thanks for the likes. I definitely appreciate the likes. Hey, um, thanks to you all for doing that, and thanks for any new subscribers. We've picked up a few just during this stream. All right. So what's next? How long am I going to stream today? I'm not sure. Guess I'm not really exhausted. It's been kind of I don't feel like I need a break. Let me see if there's anything here in the chat that I want to respond to. The cleaned up chat. Actually, let me start a new tab, and I think maybe that'll filter out the messages from the blocked people. Cleaned up chat. Yeah, I think it did. Oh no, I can still see there's it still has the like placeholder message that says it's deleted, so I guess it doesn't get rid of the placeholders until the live stream ends. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom on one chat window and then scroll up in a different chat window so I can look at different parts of it. Okay, so here's the one I'm not scrolled into the bottom on. I want to find out what is the, oh, actually, I need to reverse which which tab has which part of the chat. That's gonna work better. Okay. All right, so now I'm all the way back to 2:35 p.m. Pacific time. That's where I'm looking right now. Digital Gnosis says YouTube incentivizes lowering your standards. Drama is good content. Be a Randian hero. Winky smiley face. Um, Drama is good content. Well, maybe good in certain ways, but bad in others. Well, depending on the kind of drama. Um, I think if it's trashy drama, it's not the kind of drama I'm interested in. I want good drama. Then Digital Gnosis says, I won't say the name every time because there's looks like several in a row from the same person from him. Like, how many are there? Wow, he's done like 15 or something. Um, Looks like more on the FDA stuff. Uh, okay, I don't think I want to get back into that right now. Maybe you can raise it again if you want on a future stream. Let's see what else is in here. By the way, if you share the stream, that's another way you could help, and which I would definitely appreciate. So in addition to liking and subscribing, you can also share the stream. That would definitely help grow the channel, get more people coming by to check it out, and maybe helping promote your values too. If your values align with mine, at least to some extent, right? If we have overlapping values, maybe you think other people would be interested in this as well, then that could also help promote your values. Uh, yeah, okay, more about the FDA. Oh yeah, okay. I think I got up to the place. Simon Grassi says thank you. I guess that's thanking Megan maybe for coming on. Um, oh yeah, read this one. Oh yeah, okay, that's the one about how do I respond pe to people who equate objectivism to religion. I addressed that. Um, it could just be a smear, right? I don't think criticism is necessarily honest. Um, okay. Um, why do you think Ayn Rand's epistemology is wrong? I guess you're addressing that to one of the other chatters. So that was Simon Grassi. Maybe Simon is replying to a different chatter. I'm not sure which one. Maybe My Cool. Mark Thomas says to My Cool, I'm willing to debate objectivism. Many people misinterpret Rand's objectivism as social Darwinism. My Cool says I could never agree with selfishness. Have you read any Ayn Rand? My Cool? She has a book called The Virtue of Selfishness, a new concept of egoism, the title. So what she means by selfishness is not what is typically meant by it. But um, you might only know that if you read her. I think a lot of people try to straw man her views and smear her. So my cool. I'm just reading one of his messages. Still talking about selfishness, it looks like. I'm up to 3:40 Pacific time. Okay, so a lot of talk about selfishness. I actually have a lot on my channel about selfishness. When I started my channel back in 2019, all of my videos were on the topic of selfishness. So I have what's called the Selfishness Project, or I had that at the time, which I would just uh, go around talking to people. I would find people on the street or on my university campus or nearby, and I'd strike up a conversation about selfishness, bringing up, what Ayn Rand's view of it is, which most people, or at least many people, are not familiar with. And I wanted to give people a new way to think about selfishness, which I learned from Ayn Rand. So there's a lot on my channel about the talk about selfishness, especially if you look at the early videos. And you can easily find those if you go to the videos tab on my channel, just and you sort by the oldest, then they should just jump up at the top. It's nice being able to read these through this chat now with the garbage weeded out, or at least the people who were spewing the garbage weeded out. Reserved for and just being able to see the better chatters. Okay. Mike Cool, it looks like I'm guessing you probably haven't read Ayn Rand if you're saying these sorts of things about selfishness because um, well, maybe I'll just leave it at that. Ayn Rand has a very distinctive view of selfishness. Okay, I haven't seen any other chats I need to delete yet. I'm up to 3:45 Pacific time. It shows on my end the timestamps of the chats. I don't know if it shows up for you, but I think you maybe there's a way for you to toggle it. Oh, what's your opinion on Trump? Yeah, I read that one a while ago. I read that one out of order, and I just said very briefly, I gave a response to that. Am I cool? How do you define selfishness? That's a question Mark asks. That's a good question. Simon Grassi says there's nothing in the objectivist literature that says never help anyone. Right. Yeah, that would be a misconception. It could be very much in your interest to help someone. Whenever you do a transaction at the store, you go to a grocery store, you buy something, uh, you're helping each other, right? You help the grocery store by giving them money. They help you by giving you food. It's a win-win kind of transaction. And it's self-interested on both sides. Both are benefiting. Michael says, congrats on the numbers. Thank you. Yeah, there's Godzilla's update on 852 subs now. I think that's the most I ever got during a live stream. Kudababa, recognize you. Welcome. I think you were here at least once before. You say, there was a time when Euron Brook was reluctant to explicitly ask for money. Now he does it a lot, and people give him a lot of money. LOL. Yeah, he does ask for money a lot on his show, the Euron Brook Show. For anyone who doesn't know, he's another objectivist podcaster out there whose show I watch quite a bit, and he's the largest, I think, in the objectivist world of people out there promoting objectivism, at least the largest YouTube channel, and maybe the most recognized person out there promoting Ayn Rand and her philosophy today. He's got I think close to 40,000 subscribers now. So I'm looking to get up to my first 1,000. And we're within 150 of it. It's been growing faster lately, which has been great. Partly because I went on his show. Well, not I wasn't like a guest on his show, but I submitted a super chat to his show maybe about a week or so ago. And I did a little advertisement for my channel, and that resulted in a nice little bump in subscribers. But I think today was probably the best day since that, in terms of getting new subscribers. And yeah, I don't ask for money now. Well, I do ask for money, but not in the same way, not through super chats. But I do have Patreon and PayPal, which are linked in the description. So if you want to help support my work, you can do that. And then eventually, hopefully, I'll be able to also get the super chat going on my channel. Omzar. All right. So yeah, it looks like you're itching to get to philosophy discussion. Today is kind of unusual. I've had some interruptions I've had to deal with. Got some people, more than usual, people trying to bomb my stream and be trolls on it. So it's been taking a while, more than usual time to deal with these issues. I guess that's one of the things you got to do, at least as you're growing and you don't have moderators to do it for you. Maybe this will happen more quickly in the future. But for right now, it's just me. So, but there's plenty of other philosophical content on my channel. So if you want to watch some of my other streams while I'm doing this, there's lots there. There's also another way. I saw I can set my chat so that only people who are subscribed can participate in the chat. Maybe that's something I'll want to do at some point. But right now, it's open to anyone. Simon says, could have predicted he was a troll. Ayn Rand despised Ronald Reagan. Yeah, specifically because of his position on abortion and his position or his opening the Republican Party to the religious right. I think, which I guess is related to the abortion issue, because religious people are often the ones who are anti-abortion, and she was very much in favor of abortion being legal. Yeah, so as I said, you can treat this as kind of intermission while I'm in between more philosophical segments. Although I'm not sure, I don't know how long I'm going to stream. I don't know if there's going to be another philosophical segment after this one. I'm just trying to catch up in the chat here. I'm almost up to 4 o'clock Pacific time. Simon says, you realize VPN is not a magic bullet, especially for YouTube. You can get banned for what he did. Low Key says, greetings from Austria. How are you today? Doing all right. Had a pretty successful stream, I think. Had higher numbers than ever. And I think more subscribers than ever during a stream. And also probably more trolls than ever. But I got rid of the trolls. Oh, there's 2 people in the waiting room now on Zoom. Uh, what do you think? Are these more trolls who are trying to get past my screening? I don't recognize either of these names. Uh, well, they're going to have to be patient, I think. Um, I'm not going to, I'm going to catch up on the chat here. Um, Austria. I think you're the first person from Austria that I remember seeing on my stream. So welcome. It must be after midnight your time, right? You're like 8 or more hours ahead of me. Oh, okay. Hmm. So there's a comment here from Omar. I don't think I'm going to read it, but I was thinking, maybe should I block Omar or Omzar Inanity? Um, this one I don't think is as bad as previous ones that I blocked. I don't think it's good. Maybe I'll block him later, but he says he's leaving anyways, so um, I'll uh, I'll decide that later. Loki says to learn who rules over you, simply find out who you are not allowed to criticize. Alex Daniels, new person, says Ayn Rand was a queen. Okay, not sure what that means. Anyone in here seen Europa: The Last Battle? I haven't. That's a question from Loki. He says it's the greatest history documentary I have ever seen, in my honest opinion, but it's banned on YouTube. Um, okay, I don't know anything about that. All right, and then there's Darwin's message, which I read before. Loki says truth sounds like hate to those who hate the truth. I am just trying to share knowledge, my friend. Okay, I get to the end of the chat now. It just it popped up the last few messages. Okay, hey, we are clean! Exclamation point says, well, there's a hi emoji, the hand, the waving hand, I guess. Where did you graduate from? My PhD was University of California, Davis. I say that on the about section of my YouTube channel. There's a little information about me. That was okay. Low-key says you seem a good person at heart. Well, thank you. I guess you're referring to me there. Oh, it looks like the chat slowed down because there weren't any chats for like 20 minutes, 21 minutes. Maybe people were waiting for me to catch up in the chat. Oh, Loki says 1:40 a.m. here. Yeah, so you're 9 hours ahead of me in Austria. Google will tell you it's propaganda, but I think everyone is free to judge that for themselves, right? I am, yes, says Loki. Okay, looks like we're caught up in the chat, and it's only Loki for the last few chats. So, uh, oh, one of the people who were in the waiting room left because there's only one person in, because there were two before. Now there's just one. Um, but I don't recognize this person's name, so I think there's a good chance this person is a troll. Maybe if the person had the same name as someone in the chat, like if I recognize this person, it would seem less likely to be a troll. So I guess I can do another test right now. So whoever you are in the Zoom waiting room, type the name that you have in the Zoom waiting room in the YouTube chat. I think that's a pretty good test, right? I tried that before, and the person never answered. I gave them a minute to answer, and they never answered in the YouTube chat. So maybe that'll be my test going forward. I'm going to set the timer. All right, go. You have 1 minute to tell me your name in the YouTube chat. Write the name you have on Zoom in the YouTube chat. And I don't know if I'm going to take the call, even if this person did put his name. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But they at least have to go through this test if they want to get onto Zoom. I don't know if I'm always going to use this test. at least for right now, I like it. Ten seconds. And you're gone. All right. Very good. This is working. Low-key asks in the chat, are you interested in history? Yes, very interested in history. That's what I spend most of my time reading, actually, in between streams. Most of what I'm doing when I'm working is learning about history. Okay, well, we are coming up on 4 hours, including the last stream as well as this one. I think this is a good time to end the stream. We had a good call, couple good calls. We had Darwin in the first stream today, and then Megan in the second stream. Also, I guess she was in both streams actually, because she came on at the end of the first stream and then continued after we ended that stream and started a new one. So, yeah, a couple good calls. We had great participation or great subscriptions. Great day for subscriptions. So thank you all for that. And also thanks for all the likes and the shares, if there are any shares. And we did a little house cleaning today, and it's getting we're getting better at this. Okay, so I'm just looking at the chat here. Godzilla says, "Will you stream on Tuesday or before your appointment on Wednesday?" I'm not sure yet. Yeah, I was going back and forth in my head about that. I was thinking, maybe I should do 3 streams this week instead of my normal 2. Instead of like Wednesday and Saturday, maybe I'll do Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Or maybe I'll just do Wednesday a bit earlier than usual, or maybe later than usual after my appointments. I haven't decided yet, so I guess just stay tuned, which maybe that means subscribe to my channel and click that bell for notifications, so you'll get the notification of whenever I go live, whenever that is. So that's an advantage to being a subscriber. You can get the notification. So yeah, right now I'm not sure yet if I'm going to do a Tuesday stream or a Wednesday stream. So to be determined. All right. Low key, thank you for the compliments. I guess that's directed to me. All right. Well, I think this is a good time to end the stream. So thanks everyone for coming by. Have a good rest of your day, and I will see you later. All right. Bye, everyone.